Hey folks, David Stewart here. Today's little topic is the assumption of malice. Now, let me go ahead and paint a little picture for you. You go to a restaurant and the service is bad. Maybe it takes too long to get your food. Maybe when your food comes, your order's wrong, or one of your friends has a bad order, and so you have to send the food back. It takes a long time maybe for that to come out. You're thirsty because they don't refill your soda, or you order a beer and it shows up on your tab, but they never bring the beer, or the beer's warm for some reason, and the food comes out cold maybe, and you're just like, man, the service was really bad today. As you're divvying up the bill, you start to theorize about why the service was bad. And I definitely tend to do this with my wife because she was a waitress, 20 years ago back in college or whatever. And so she has usually a lot of theories about, I think that waiter maybe is having a really bad day and just can't focus on his job. He's not doing a very good job. Or I only see one cook. Maybe there's not enough cooks showed up. Maybe one of the cooks didn't show up to work. Maybe the hostess did a bad job and overbooked the restaurant, sat too many people at once, and there's not enough waiters to go around. So people are overworked. They just can't keep up with the demand that's on them. Maybe it's something else, like the manager booked all the wrong waiters and there's no one experienced on the shift to kind of pick up the slack. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe the owner just didn't hire good people and it's not a good restaurant and we won't go back there. So you start to come up with lots of theories about why the service was bad. And then there ends up being one guy at the table who's like, no, I think the server just didn't want to bring us drinks because I sent my food back or something, right? So like the server acted with malice. The server, my food tasted weird. I bet he like spat in it, or they like peed in the ranch dressing or something. I bet that they just chose to let our food get cold to punish us because I sent my food back, or they want to charge us extra for beer, not because they forgot to bring it to you because of a human failing, but because they just really want to screw us over. And I'm going to leave no tip, and I'm not even going to pay the full bill because these people are doing this because they hate me. Right? There's somebody who assumes malice in a bad situation, or really just any kind of situation that involves people. So one mindset is you look out in the world and you see a field of hostiles. People are hostile towards you and they want to hurt you, and they will go out of their way to hurt you if you let them, and you have to be vigilant against it. And that's a mindset. I see it a lot online because people start to kind of drop some of their social filters, where maybe they would internalize this thing like, I think the waiter hated me. And instead they just say these things all the time. The other mindset is really, you look at the world, and it's a world full of human beings, and human beings are limited and imperfect creatures. They make mistakes, sometimes because of their own fault, sometimes because of something else that's going on. They get distracted by someone else, or they're distracted because they broke up with their significant other. They can't focus on their job properly. And a bad thing happens because of, say, negligence, but not necessarily malice. Right? So imperfect people make mistakes. I think the world is mostly full of people that have a bunch of demands on them, and it's really impossible sometimes to meet all the wants and needs of every single person that's kind of in your sphere asking something of you, whether you're a waiter at a restaurant, or you're a clerk at a store, or you're working in an office, or you're making YouTube content or something else. It's impossible to keep everybody satisfied. So you do your best to satisfy as many people as you can, and you know that not everybody's going to be happy with that. You just do the best you can, and sometimes some people come out on the short end of that stick. Sometimes one table gets worse service so that the other table can actually get their food or something. You never quite know what's going on. So my mindset tends to be the latter, which is that for the most part, individuals are not acting with malice towards everybody else. Certainly they're capable of it, but in most cases they're just acting within the limited constraints of what they have to do. And since they're imperfect creatures, they make mistakes and sometimes act negligently, and that's just the way things happen to go. Now, the problem with my mindset is that sometimes people really are acting with malice. And I sometimes don't pick this up because our theory of mind tends to be based on first ourselves and then our most early interactions, say with our parents. So my parents generally didn't act with malice towards me, right? Maybe they made a mistake and bumped into me, but I wouldn't think, oh, my mom slammed my head into the cabinet when I was 3. It's like, no, she bumped into me and I like bonked the cabinet, right? I think that some people have a different mindset. And so my mindset, the problem with it is that I assume other people are generally acting good, and sometimes they're acting with malice. So sometimes you get a comment and it's like, I'll reply to it. Okay, you didn't understand what I said. Let me explain in text. I'll give you another take that's different from the video. And then they'll continue on with some other sophistic crap. I'm like, oh, I misunderstood. I thought you actually wanted to have a conversation, not have a fake conversation where you try to pretend I said something and then you're going to try to gotcha me. So I'll go ahead and block you and I'll move on with my day because you were acting with malice. So I tend to not see, personally as a person who grew up in a pretty well-adjusted household, I tend to not see malice as my immediate thought, and sometimes malice is there. The other side of it is I think people who have this view where everybody's hostile, maybe really grew up in an environment where people really were malicious towards them, and they themselves have a mindset where they are going to act out against other people and do malicious things against them. This is why if you're ever on a date with someone and you go to a restaurant, however this is an old, I don't know what to call it, it's not a proverb, but however they treat the wait staff, particularly if something goes wrong, that's exactly how that person is going to treat you in your relationship or when you get married. Makes sense? So if you're out on a date with a guy, if you're a girl and you're out on a date with a guy and he berates the waiter because the waiter made a mistake, rather than like a gentle correction, my order's incorrect, can you take it back and fix it? The waiter will probably do that. He berates the waiter, calls him incompetent, he's mean to the waiter. That's exactly how he's going to act to you when you're his wife, okay? Because he is going to view everybody else as acting either with incredible incompetence or malicious intent, or he wants to act malicious towards other people. So somebody who's acting with malice towards other people is probably going to act with malice towards you. Somebody who assumes everybody else is acting with malice on them is going to assume you are acting with malice on him. So if you're married and he gets home and you forgot to do the dishes or something, he's going to think you purposefully didn't do the dishes to frustrate him. He's going to be angry and think you're purposefully trying to offend him. You're purposefully trying to hurt him it's just the way that life works sometimes. So that old proverb tends to have a lot of deep resonating effects because in the environment of the restaurant, things can go wrong because people make mistakes, and how you treat that other person because they made a mistake is going to reflect a lot on your mindset and your personality, especially with how you deal with the other people in your immediate vicinity. So I thought I'd share that little piece of wisdom and just think about this. Not everybody's acting with malice. Yes, some people are, but one of the things that I think is important is that you don't assume malice right away, but rather you look at the action and first say, your assumption of malice should really come from, there's no other way that to explain this besides this person is acting with malicious intent, right? Like the person did not make a mistake by siphoning the gas out of your gas tank, right? Now they might have been really poor and couldn't afford it. That doesn't matter. They wanted to steal your gas. So obviously it's malicious intent. Versus, somebody scratched my car because they hate me. It could be that they accidentally brushed against your car and they had like some kind of little zipper on their purse and it scratched the car and it wasn't intentional and they didn't even notice it. So in a lot of cases, people do things on accident that harm other people because of their negligence or just because of factors outside their control, and it's not because they're malicious. Generally, if things can be explained with maliciousness, that doesn't necessarily mean they are, but things that can't be explained without maliciousness probably are something that's malicious. So thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next time. You give me your thoughts down below and let me know what you think about malicious intent. I've talked about this a lot with, say, like corporations, that the idea that corporations are always acting like to maximize profit is nonsense, but they're not necessarily doing things with malice either. Sometimes they just are incompetent, and that's a whole different trajectory. Incompetence can create bad problems just as much as malice can. And in some cases, incompetence may be worse because you can guard yourself pretty well against a lot of malice. You can lock your door, but incompetence is a little harder. You can lock your door to keep someone from, breaking into your house and burning it down, but the UPS driver who accidentally crashes into your house, that locked door didn't really do that much. So anyway, let me know, guys, and I will see you all next time.